I know kids that gone through that.
For all of you here tonight who are not students, mainly in the front row to the left, I'm sure you can all remember one or two people and probably one or two events in your life that really defined your career, that made you who you are today. So, to all of the students here tonight, I have one challenge for you. Make tonight one of those defining moments. So, my name is Tom Laws. I am the CFO of the University of Findlay, and welcome to what we hope is the first of many professional seminars. And I really did mean that. This is, there aren't many moments in your life that really you can look back when you're 40, 50, or 60 years old and say, that changed my life course. So I really hope tonight's one of those nights. So with that, I would have the distinct privilege of introducing our moderator for this evening, Dr. Damon Osborne. Damon is the Associate Vice President of Academic Affairs. He's an accomplished musician and a David Bowie impersonator. More importantly, Damon is a recognized scholar. He received his bachelor's degree from Ashland University, his master's degree in integrated technology from Lowell University, and his PhD in online learning from Capella University. Damon is known for his expertise in online learning, and he currently serves as the interim dean for the College of Business at the University of Findlay. So may I introduce Dr. Damon Osborne.
Much. I appreciate the introduction. My David Bowie's not that great. First, before we get started, I want to see from the students out there, how many of you are here tonight because you have to be here? Raise your hand. Don't raise your hand. Just raise your hand. You're here because you want to be here tonight. Maybe somebody told you that you needed to be here, but you want to be here. All right. I'm not going to mess with you anymore. And I'm also going to stay out of the way because we have a distinguished panel to share some great information with you tonight. We've got a few topics that we've set aside to discuss with you, and we've also given them the instruction to be direct, unfiltered, and share that information with you, not sugarcoated. Well, maybe, no. The stuff. Vital information for you to be successful. I'm not going to tell you what the working title of this evening was, but this is a great way to frame this discussion tonight. How to stand out in your internship and subsequently getting into that first job. All right, without further ado, I'm going to introduce the panel alphabetically. Our first panelist is Eric Anderson. He's the principal and co-founder of AR Marketing. AR Marketing is the go-to award-winning marketing agency with a focus on family-owned businesses nationwide. Whether it's grocery, convenience, medical, furniture, or hardware, AR Marketing develops and executes strategies for over 1,000 family-owned businesses across the U.S. and Canada. AR Marketing also works with Marathon Petroleum, Samsung, and All Health. AR maintains offices in Findlay, Annapolis, Maryland, and Charleston, South Carolina. Eric earned his Bachelor of Science degree in Business from Ferris State University and an MBA from The Ohio State University. His 27-year career in marketing spans across worldwide brands like Scott's Miracle-Gro, Frigidaire, and Brunswick. Before starting AR Marketing, Eric was the president of Fresh & Counter Incorporated, Ohio's largest privately owned supermarket management company. Eric is currently a chaired speaker with the International Coca-Cola Institute. He sits on the Red Oval Advisory Board for IGA and is a past board member and current advisor to the National Grocers Association. Eric has served on various local boards, including Junior Achievement of Northwest Ohio, Hancock Economic Development, Open Arms Domestic Violence Shelter, United Way of Hancock County, and others. Eric was also the co-chair of the successful 2009 $54 million Findlay City Schools bond levy. Please welcome Eric Anderson.
That's long. That's way too long.
Our next panelist is Nicole Busey. Nicole is the Tax Director, Indirect Tax Compliance and Planning at Marathon Petroleum Company, LP MPC. She received her BS in Accounting and Business Administration from the University of Findlay and her Juris Doctorate from Ohio Northern. Nicole has held various positions of increasing responsibility in both Findlay and Houston with MPC and Marathon Oil Company when the two companies were integrated, including most recently tax, legal, and audit manager. In Nicole's current role, she is responsible for tax planning, sales and use tax compliance, motor fuel and excise tax compliance, property tax compliance, and customs and international trade compliance. A whole lot of compliance.
So much.
Nicole is the chair of the AFPM, American Fuel and Petrochemical Manufacturers Tax Policy Committee. Nicole is also an active member in her local community, including being the vice president of the Alumni Association Board of Governors of the University of Findlay, and a member of the 2018 and 2019 campaign committees for the United Way of Hancock County. Please welcome Nicole Busey. Our next panelist is Jaime Dela Cruz, also from Marathon Petroleum Company. He is the Director of Organizational Capability, which encompasses the company's diversity and inclusion, talent acquisition, and compliance functions. Jaime began his career with Marathon in 1999 in Findlay, Ohio, as a member of the company's law organization, where he worked as a staff attorney for both MPC and Speedway. In 2007, Jaime was appointed Human Resources Manager of the company's refinery in St. Paul Park, Minnesota, and has worked in various HR leadership roles at various locations to the present date. Born and raised in San Antonio, Texas, Jaime and his wife Elizabeth have 3 children, Penny, Cross, and Dallas. Jaime received his undergraduate degree from Maryville University of St. Louis, where he graduated magna cum laude, and co-captained the men's soccer team, and his law degree is from Ohio Northern University, where he graduated with high distinction and an overall class rank of 3. It's impressive. Jaime currently serves as board chair of Focus, a wellness and recovery community in Findlay. Jaime enjoys spending time with his family, watching sports, and volunteering in the community. Please welcome Jaime. And our final panelist for this evening is Ann Roman. Ann is the Vice President of Communications and Public Affairs for Cooper Tire and Rubber Company. Ann joined Cooper Tire and Rubber Company as Vice President, Communications and Public Affairs in May 2012. She is responsible for global, external, and internal communications, as well as the company's corporate social responsibility efforts. 2 years ago, she was nominated by Cooper and won a National Association of Manufacturers Step Ahead Award for Women in Manufacturing. A seasoned communications leader, Ann has more than 30 years of experience developing and executing strategic communications initiatives for large, publicly held companies. She came to Cooper from Finish Line Incorporated, a national retailer with approximately 600 stores in 47 states, as well as shops inside some 450 Macy's department stores. Her career highlights also include nearly a decade with Borders Group Incorporated, the former Ann Arbor, Michigan-based book and music retailer, which at its peak had sales of more than $4 billion and some 1,200 Borders and Walden Books stores throughout the United States and overseas. At Borders, Ann led a team of communications professionals responsible for all internal and external communications and corporate giving. Earlier in her career, Ann was a successful entrepreneur who co-founded Roman Peshoff, an award-winning boutique public relations and marketing communications firm in Toledo that grew in her years with the firm from just 3 employees to over 25 professionals serving regional and national clients. Ann sold her ownership stake in Roman Peshoff in order to join Borders Group, and the company continues today as RP. During her time at RP, the firm earned the PR profession's highest accolade, a Silver Anvil Award. Ann is a graduate of The Ohio State University with a bachelor's degree in journalism. She earned national accreditation in public relations in 1990. She has served on the board of directors of 50 North in Findlay and is the 2019 co-chair of the Findlay-Hancock County American Heart Association campaign. She and her husband, Mike, have been married for over 3 decades and have 2 adult children, Daniel and Madeline, plus a golden retriever, Glory. They enjoy travel, Ohio State football, hiking, and working on their 117-year-old home in Perrysburg. Please welcome Ann. I think that's the most I've read out loud in the last 20 years. Anyway, one of our original panelists couldn't make it this evening due to a scheduling conflict, but she had a wealth of information to share. So we're hopeful that we're going to have her for a future discussion just like this. But she did send me a few little tidbits that I'm going to share as fun facts this evening. They're facts. They're not necessarily as fun as you might think they are. So the first one
is dress for success. Proper attire should always be worn. No pajamas. Until you have a full-time job, remember that you are always interviewing. So that's the first thing to keep in mind. All right. So our first topic for this evening is the title of our discussion. It's how to stand out. So I would turn it over. Let's start with Ann. Give me some good ways to stand out. Let's start off with the positive. Some good ways to stand out in an internship or starting off your job.
Sure, absolutely. Can you guys hear me okay? Good. Okay, we had a co-op, as a matter of fact, within our communications group who also was with our HR group at the same time, so we shared this co-op. And this was just very recently, this past summer. She stood out in amazing ways, but primarily one of the things that she did amazed us, where we'd ask her to do one assignment, and she would come back and say, well, hey, do you want me to take this to the next step? Which I think is this. Is it okay if I go ahead and do that? And we'd say, yeah, take it. So she'd come back after that and then say, do you want me to go do this with it next? Yes, heck yes, go ahead, keep going. So she really stood out, and by just the virtue of the fact that she would go always to the next step, but she always asked us first to make sure that it was okay with us and that we all agreed that that's where she should take this project next. But we've had many other co-ops who just do what you've asked them to do, bring it to you and leave it and run away. So she was the opposite. So that's one way to stand out in a good, positive way, is to do more than you're asked and do it well.
All right, Eric, do you have other positives to add? Any other good ways to stand out?
Well, no, I mean, I will add almost, identical to that is, by the way, Cooper Marathon, AR Marketing, who are we? I'm replacing the person who couldn't be here.
Nobody had to know.
Anytime I'm asking an intern to do something for us, I tell them, assume, a 1 to 5 scale on completing this task. And anytime I ask you something, assume it's a 3. Assuming what I'm asking you to do is just what I'm asking you to do. If you do it, it's gonna be fine. You're gonna be 3 on a 5 scale. If you come back with a little more information than I want, if you come back maybe sooner than I was anticipating, if you come back and ask really intelligent questions, now you're starting to move yourself up the scale. So that's identical to what Ann said. The other thing that stands out to me with interns and early or young adults in a position is watch your communication style, and that is there are different levels of communication, and sometimes we send an email to a friend or to a parent or to someone and you assume you did your job. I communicated, but I haven't heard back from them. If you don't get a response, you got to move up to the next level, and that might be a text because somebody responds to that better. It might be a phone call, and finally it's an in-person visit. And the ones that stand out to me are the ones that figure that out real quick. And when I ask, hey, what happened with X, Y, or Z, and they say, oh, I emailed them, but they never responded. Okay, you're not getting your communication through. So to me, those different levels of communication and figuring that out amongst your colleagues and amongst the individuals that you'll have to work with outside your company is really super important. So that would be the only thing I'd add on that.
Before I flip the coin to the other side, either of you want to jump in on a positive?
I'll add on to what Eric was saying about email communication or just communication, written communication in general. If you were given a task to do and you're reaching out to someone, make sure that there's a question mark in the email that's being sent out and a time frame for responding. Because if you make a statement, they may not realize that there's an ask there. I know it seems very simple, that if you need something, you would ask and they would respond. But far too often, we see our young, our interns as well as our new hires send, to Eric's point, they need to get information, they send it, they don't follow up, or there's not a clear time frame. Well, if you send me an email and it's not clear as to when I need to do it, I'll put it at the bottom of the list. Because everyone is very busy. So, but you also can't be, on the flip side, always be the one that has emergencies. Every time you email someone, it can't be, I need it today. So, because eventually you'll be the one that cries wolf and they'll say, well, I'm not going to respond because obviously you don't know how to prioritize, or it's really not that urgent.
Some good positive takeaways there for how to stand out in a good way. Let's flip the coin on the other side. Who wants to jump in first on some bad ways to stand out?
Yeah, so let me, I'll share the bad side, and then you can guess what the good side is. And the bad side is you don't collaborate. Everything we do at Marathon, we do as a team. And they're big teams, smaller teams, but everything we accomplish as a team. Everyone we bring on site to serve as an intern or a co-op are capable from a technical standpoint. They got the academics. We bring in about 500 plus interns and co-ops to the company on an every year basis, right? And so we have a lot of folks come in the door. For the folks in Finley, the first person they speak to in a group like this is me. And I share with them that, hey, you're here because you've got the academic chops. You're here because you stand out already from a technical standpoint. You'll stay here if you can collaborate, if you can act in accordance with a team. And sometimes that may be the first time that someone's telling that message to these kids and really meaning it. Because I think we all hear from a young age, hey, it's important to be part of a team. But with our company, it's imperative. You have to. You can't operate on an island. And those who try to, and those who do, no matter how smart they are, no matter how good they are, we won't keep them. We won't keep them on board because the team is more important than any one individual. And so I always tell the students as they come through, say, hey, don't tell me how good you are. Tell me how good you can make your team, right? And that'll keep you coming in the next semester and the next semester. And eventually, with performance, hey, that's going to get you that full-time offer.
That's good stuff. Anybody else on bad ways to stand out?
On a bad way.
Yeah.
If you are invited to lunch with your coworkers or your boss, we chatted about this earlier, be very perceptive of how everyone else is ordering. Hopefully you're not the first one to order. If everyone else is just ordering a hamburger, don't order the shrimp cocktail as an appetizer, the steak as your main meal, and then order a dessert. Be very perceptive of what is kind of the approach. You're not there to spend everyone's money because it's the company's money. You're there to kind of fit in and not stand out in the bad way because this story has lingered for years through Marathon, through within the tax department because of this person that went and ordered at lunch like $40 worth of food when everyone else is spending about $12. So just, again, you just be very receptive and perceptive of it. And this might be the first time where you're in a setting like that.
And the to-go box, too.
Yes, yeah. And that you're taking part of it back because you ordered too much food because then you're making comments that this is my dinner, too. Well, that's not why we took you to lunch, or it was a group lunch.
Sorry, I was just going to add to that a little bit. It's amazing how I'm sure all of you as students are thinking, well, these interns are coming and going out of these companies all the time, and they're not going to remember me for doing something like that. But it is amazing how many people you actually remember for these gaffes. So things that they've done, that were just pretty shocking to the team. We had one in a co-op in finance in that department, who the vice president of finance tried to extend a job offer to this person after they had their co-op service with Cooper, and he didn't answer the phone call that this finance VP was giving him. He didn't answer an email where he was trying to reach out and actually offer this person a job. And then he texted and didn't answer that. And so this person, we found out later that he had another job at another company, but just thought, well, I have another job. I don't need to call this guy from Cooper back, even though he's trying to offer me a job in all of these. It's just, rudeness was amazing, really, not to answer at all. And then now, do you think if this other job doesn't work out and this person would want to come back to Cooper, everyone knows that that's not someone we're going to hire. So he thought he didn't really need us, but you never know. So, right, and that person is famous now for doing that.
Yeah, so when they say one person or this person, they know names.
Oh, yeah.
They're just not sharing the names. You can become an object lesson
Well, you get it. I mean,
and live in infamy.
and just because we're old doesn't mean we give you guys nicknames, or don't give you nicknames, because we give you nicknames. So, you're tall guy, you're short girl, you're fierce because you're really good at what you do, you're lazy. I mean, you get nicknames, and we have nicknames for you, and just, make sure you know what your nickname is, and hopefully you're setting it up as, like fierce or, great worker, whatever the heck it is. But, and that's, because we don't always remember your name, but we certainly remember your nickname, at least my office.
Make your nickname awesome. How about that?
Awesome, great
All right.
nickname.
All right.
Baby Fresh.
David,
Wanna be
one
Baby
thing-
Fresh.
One thing I just want to, I would add as a tip is do your research. Certainly when you interview, but even beyond that, do your research on the company you're going to go work for. Every company has a set of values, and that's going to be posted on their website. And make sure you're aligned with those values before you come to work for that company. And then live those values, like really show those values. And conversely, don't act contrary to the values. And then, I mean. The worst stories that you're hearing up here, they're true, they happen. I had one. I had an intern that was having to travel for the job, and they had to travel on my credit card because they didn't have a credit card. And then I get a call a couple months later that I stayed at, like, not only a hotel, a nice hotel, but then like the presidential suite with a whirlpool and the whole thing. And that's what our intern did. Our intern went with a credit card and like really lived it up that night, and that so either don't do that or make sure it's a really good night, because that's
right. 'Cause that's it.
that might be it.
That's it. That's right. That's a good one. Whew. So I got a couple quick fun facts for you to move into a new topic here. First one, being punctual is key. Punctual does not mean showing up, like if the day starts at 8, it doesn't mean showing up at 8. It means being at your desk and ready to work at 8. Showing up late to work gives the employer a sense that you aren't excited about the opportunity. And another one, I love this one, never sleep at your desk. And in parentheses, yes, this happened. Don't ever sit idle at your desk. I heard this earlier. If you can do more, ask. It's a great opportunity to shadow a role or get exposure to a part of the business that you might not otherwise get the opportunity to learn about. So once you've completed something, ask for more. Be the go-getter. Rise above it. Don't get on your phone. All right, so our second topic, we kind of touched on this a little bit. It's communication skills. And the first question that I have in this area, I think we might have a little more area to cover here, is what are some areas where you see deficiencies in the communication skills of recent hires or interns? People just coming out right now, where you see some deficiencies. Anybody wants to jump in?
Yeah, I would say writing. That's easy for me to say as a communications person, but I think writing is a skill that seems to have gone by the wayside probably for the past 10 years, I would say. It's been eroding. And the writing skills of students coming in as interns or others have just continued to decline to the point where there are multiple errors in grammar and even in spelling, and there's spell check, or incomplete information, or co-ops come in and do a presentation at the end of their co-op session for leaders in our company. And the last one I attended, the 3 different students did PowerPoints, and all 3 of them had huge mistakes all over the PowerPoints. And that was their chance to shine in front of a whole group of leaders at Cooper, not just the team they were working with. So really, really work on writing. If you write something, please proofread it, read it backwards and forwards before you turn it into anyone at your job. If you're going to do a presentation, have someone else look at it for you. Before you show that presentation. Really work hard on delivering your actual verbal presentation as well, because there's many students who come in are extremely shy, and we've seen a lot of that at Cooper where they're extremely introverted. There was one intern that we worked with who she couldn't raise her voice at all, even to the level where you knew she was at your office door. So she would just stand and stare at me, and I would be working away, and then I would turn and go, what do you want? Kind of snuck up on us. But so writing and your verbal communication skills as well. This is all stuff you can get good at by practicing. So there are certain people that are just gifted writers, but business writing, serviceable, good business writing is something you can get better at through practicing it. So take every opportunity you can to write for volunteer assignments that you can do, write for family newsletters or whatever. Write, and have people assess your writing, because it is the way that people still communicate.
Yes, email, within Marathon, that is how you're communicating, is email. And it is professional, technical communications. and you want to be a professional, even though it says that you're an intern on that. And use spell check. You dump it into a Word document and use grammar check. It is amazing as many documents that are sent that those functions are there and people do not use them. To Ann's point too, if you have a roommate, just say, can you just review this for me, read this for me, see what you think about it. I mean, I'm sure that they ask favors of you, you can ask a favor of them, because it's good to get someone else to, especially if it's some technical paper or a PowerPoint presentation.
So I would add two things. I would say be crisp, be concise. Because don't assume just because you wrote it and just because you sent it that someone's going to read it. They will look at it, and if they see a long, drawn-out email, they will do their best, but they may not get too far. So if you really want to get your point across, be very crisp, be concise, to the point, and move on. So that's being respectful of people's time that you're interacting with. The other thing I would say, I just want to kind of underscore something Ann said, practice. Don't give yourself a pass for anything. You know, there's students that I come across, but not just students. There's employees who will say, well, hey, look, I'm really not the presenter type. You know, I'm more kind of, I like to be behind the scenes, or don't be good at everything, right? So get up in front of people, practice as much, and annoy your friends, annoy your family members. Get up, say, hey, I got to present something tomorrow. I want it to be good, and practice and practice and practice. So to the point where you're not memorizing it, but you've learned it so well that you can talk to it in a very clear, concise, and entertaining type of way.
Yeah.
Writing's key, and if you're going to leave a voicemail for someone, make it very, very short and sweet. This is Eric. I'm at extension blank. I have a question about such and such. Please call me when you have a moment. That's it. You don't need to go into it. That was a huge weakness of mine when I first came out of school, and my boss called me up at Scott's and said, dude, you're leaving me like 2-minute voicemails. Stop it. And so remember, and it seems so simple and so dumb, you don't need to tell them the solution to this problem, blah, 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 blah. No, just make it short and concise.
Yeah, because you have to know that how you communicate projects whether you have confidence or not in your abilities, and whether fair or not, that's what comes across. So if you come across with a powerful message or a persuasive message, then people will think, okay, this person really knows what they're doing. They know what they're talking about. They have some confidence. I want to keep this person on my team. If you come across windy and kind of wishy-washy, and if if the grammar's not there, the spelling's not there, I mean, I think you're self-selecting yourself out of the process, and you're making it easier for somebody else to get selected for the position as opposed to you.
You guys kind of touched on it, but the second question in this area is, do you have one powerful communication tip to share? So, I mean, like you've just done that with our audience, that would immediately elevate them in your opinion. So I think, Jaime, what you just said essentially is that, crisp and concise, but do you guys have other thoughts?
Yeah, I would say be willing to step out just a little bit and volunteer for that extra assignment or to lead a group. I went around Cooper before coming here this evening and talked to many of the executives that manage interns throughout the company. And one of them was talking about, she was in finance actually, and she had a group of, I think, 8 or so students. And she said, would 2 of you volunteer? I need 2 of you to volunteer to set up an event for us outside of Cooper. So they wanted to do something, an extracurricular kind of activity as a group that was going to be something fun for the whole group. She asked if 2 people could volunteer to decide where to go and set it up and do the organization behind it. And she said no one would volunteer out of the entire group, even for something like that, which should be kind of an easy task. And she had to appoint 2 people to do it. And she just said, I can't believe that no one would even take this minor risk out of a group of students. And she made the point that taking this little bit of leadership where you'll volunteer, and no one's going to criticize the job you do at it, they just really want you to do it and bring the group together. And so take that small, appropriate risk and just step out just a little bit, and you'll be noticed for doing that. It doesn't take a lot.
And one other communication tip is parrot what your supervisor is asking you. So if they're asking you to do something, just repeat it. If I heard you correctly, you're asking me to do X. And that just shows that you understand what they're talking about, that you have good, clear direction as you're moving forward in the project. And if you're wrong, they'll say, no, I really meant for you to do this. Okay, I get it. I understand what you're saying. You want me to do X. So don't be afraid to parrot, because that they're going to hear their own instruction again back to themselves and know that you're on the right direction.
Yeah, good tips. So just a quick pause to check with you. Do you love email as a mode of communication? No? I saw like one head nod out of the group of students, so like 2 or 3 students. I know you don't love. Do you love it as a mode of communication? No, but it's how we communicate in business. It's how it works. And if that doesn't work, then I get a text. And if that doesn't work, then my boss calls me. All right. And surprisingly, Christy sent that same kind of message, is that communication skills are vital. And even if it's not a mode of communication that you're inherently comfortable with, find a way to gain some comfort in that. Make eye contact, shake hands, be the professional. And I walk on this campus every day. I walk across campus and I see you all day long. And some of you look me in the eye and we smile and we share that thing as we pass. And some of you see that I've made eye contact with you and you do this. Let's keep going. So just something to think about. All right. The next topic is onboarding workplace expectations. The first one is, tell us about the onboarding process with your company. How do you orient interns or new employees to your company's norms and culture? Nicole, why don't you start us off with this one?
Yeah, so every semester we get an intern, and we've had accounting interns from University of Findlay before, and they report up through my group. So the first day is just the normal, we sit you down, we get you the password to get access to the computer and everything else. But then we have training that you sit down with someone else and train. We give you the process, procedure, dust manuals to go along with it. You take notes. If someone is training you on something, make sure you are actively writing. Do not think that you will remember what it is, because that is one of our pet peeves when we have interns or even new hires that we have explained in detail, and they have sat down for days beside us and they barely take any notes. Then they go to do it 2 weeks later and they forget half of it and they mess up. They keep coming back for things. That's why you have a pad and paper. I know it's not the most exciting thing to do, kind of like email communications, but that is how it is in the business world. I mean, at Marathon, especially in the tax world. But then we have you assigned to different people depending upon what job you're going to be doing, and that is your go-to person for that. We love it when they say, I have finished this, can I have something else? Or I've got information requests sent out, I'm waiting for it to come back. Is there anything else I can do? Or they go to one of our administrative assistants and say, is there something that I can do for you? It doesn't matter what type of job it is. We had an intern that he's right there currently. It was a slow 2 days. We had him printing labels, but it is great that he did this because he did a lot of work that then my administrative assistants and my analysts do not have to do. It was not below him to do it. He was eager. He was smiling the whole time doing it. It was up and down the hall and everything else. And we honestly don't ask interns to do anything that we wouldn't do ourselves. What I ask an intern, I would have made the labels too. It's just he had the time. So, and same with the analysts and same with our administrative assistants. So it's really stepping out and saying, okay, I got this done. What else can I do? Or I'm waiting. What else can I do? But then they always have that resource to go back to, or resources. In worst case, they go back to me or the direct manager that they report to for information and guidance. Or if they're given 3 different priorities, 3 different projects with different priorities, how do I prioritize those? Can you tell me for sure which one is more important?
That's good. Who else wants to jump in on onboarding?
So in onboarding at our company, just to kind of build on what Nicole set forth. So we've got, as I said, we've got a lot of interns and co-ops that come through our doors every year. And right off the bat, there's an orientation. There's a half day to a 3/4 day of orientation where you learn about the company, you learn about the policies, the ins, the outs, where you're supposed to report to work, times, you report the time you leave, lunch, all that good stuff. And we take care of that. But the real important stuff is what Nicole mentioned, which is you get to the organization that you're going to be working for, and they assign you a mentor. And you have a mentor, you have a supervisor, and that's your opportunity to ask as many questions as you can. and then not just on day one, but really throughout the entire term. Take advantage of every opportunity. That's what we'll advise you when you get there, is that to Ann's point, step out of your comfort zone, say yes, don't say no to assignments. Don't think that you're above anything. As Nicole said, we do, if you're not there doing the work, then we would be doing that work. So it's important. So I interned with the company a long time ago, and I can remember as an intern, we had a case. We were down in Hockin County, and I did two things I remember. One of them was I did labels. I remember that, and I was happy and proud to do the labels. And the other thing is I did a little legal research, and I wrote a little brief memo, and I can recall like a real proud moment where word for word about 3 of my sentences appeared in one of our briefs. And I thought, now that's cool, right? So here I am, hey, I'm doing whatever they want me to do. They had me do labels. I didn't turn my nose up at it. I said, hey, let me do what I can. Then based on that, they said, hey, now go do some legal research, and it worked out.
Very cool.
Cool.
All right.
I mean, conversely, we're a much smaller company compared to these multi-billion-dollar company. I'm literally tens of millions of dollars, and so they're nothing like these guys. And we have anywhere between 2 and 6 interns at any given time. Well, for us, between 2 and 6 interns, that could be 25% of my workforce at some point. Some days the interns outnumber the number of people working in the office, so it's not uncommon at all. And believe it or not, we have a miserable, horrible onboarding process at my company, and it's baptism by fire. And so if to what Jaime was talking about before, make sure you understand the culture where you're going to work. In my company, you're thrown right in, right off the bat. And we have a manual from 2009, literally, that's called AR Marketing for Dummies. And the interns fill in the blanks as they go and fill in the pages, and I'm not allowed to look at it. And so it's probably things that I do that are kind of odd and out of sync. But it teaches them, and it's all written by the interns themselves, and that's their guide to starting at AR Marketing. So know what culture you're getting into. Theirs is much more structured, a different set of expectations compared to maybe a small company that doesn't have quite the same structure. We hire on culture before we hire on talent any day. So I want the cultural fit before the kid who's like the brainiac. I want the kid who's going to fit in first.
100% agree with that.
Yeah.
We go through an extensive hiring interviewing process. When we're interviewing anyone, they meet with multiple people, and it's so you get to see, do you really want to work here if you haven't been an intern before? And we get to see, will you actually fit in with us? Because after about 3 hours of different interviews, which is how we handle it generally in the tax department, you're a half hour, 45 minutes with 1 or 2 people, and you go to another 1 or 2, and you go to another 1 or 2, and 3 hours later, you're done. We are seeing hopefully the true you, and your personality is coming out, and hopefully we see that you will fit in with us. If you are not a fit, we don't care if you are the 4.0 student and have done all of these other accomplishments, we will not extend an offer. And we want you to be part of us. So conversely, if you leave and you're like, oh, I don't ever want to work with those people, I can't, but we think that you were great and we send an offer, then maybe you should look otherwise, because you should be happy in your employment as well.
Yeah, I would actually jump in to what Jaime said earlier when he said research the company and make sure that you know what culture you're joining, because it's a two-way interview. They're interviewing you to make sure that you're the right fit for the company or whatever the organization is, but you should be doing the same thing. You should make sure, yeah, I know you want a job. We all want a job. You want to make some money. I get that. But you don't want to just take a position just to take a position. If you think, I can make this work, it won't work. It won't work. It might work for a little short period of time, and then you're going to be looking for something else. So make sure that you're joining, to the best of your ability, an organization that meets your needs. Now, having said that, right out of college, you may not have the depth of self-knowledge to really understand what your arc is. So sometimes it is getting started and then figuring it out from there.
So I just want to
Please jump in.
add to that, because I think that's so true. And you're getting a lot of advice here, but one thing I want to share with you is that this is an awesome moment in your life. This is an awesome moment in your life, because you're in the driver's seat of you and what you want to do with your career, with your life, where you want to live, what company you want to work for, what industry you want to work for. what kind of organization do you want to be aligned with for the long term? You get to make that decision right now. So you are in demand right now. We recruit heavily from University of Findlay. We have got about 2,500 plus employees on our Findlay campus, and the University of Findlay, that's the school where we have most alums from. So I mean, it's a big deal, but we recognize that you have options, right? And so part of what we want to do is we want to position ourselves as a premier employer. Hey, we take your feedback when you provide it, and we make whatever checks and adjustments that we need to. But it's very much a two-way street. I mean, Damon said it right. This is a bilateral relationship, and you should feel empowered by that. What we're trying to tell you up here, when you find that company that you do want to work for, this is how to put your best foot forward. This is how to stand out above the rest, because just know that whether it's the peers here in this room or the folks that you don't know that are competing for the same jobs, they are practicing and whatever they need to practice, or they are doing the research, whatever research they need to do on whatever companies to position themselves as the top candidate. So we're just trying to put you in the best position to make your goals come true.
Very good. I appreciate that. All right, let's jump into one more topic, and then I'll leave some room here at the end of our session that you can ask questions as well. This topic is business ethics. We've talked a lot about communication. We've talked a lot about onboarding and bringing somebody into a company. But business ethics, what are the basic ethical considerations that all interns, new employees in your company face, and what shortcomings do you see in this area? Anybody jump in?
Tell the truth.
Always tell the truth.
Honesty.
Yes,
I would
honesty.
say if you, no, go ahead. I was going to say if you've been assigned to do something and maybe you took it down the wrong path and didn't realize that, and now you're late and running behind on the assignment, just be honest about that. Never lie. Don't try to hide the truth. Don't try to, put a different spin on something, because it will be very obvious to everyone, whether it's right then or a little bit later, and no one appreciates being surprised by, some dishonest information that they received earlier. So I would say being honest is number one.
Yeah, I mean, and to Jaime's point, if you look at Marathon's values, one of our things is business integrity being of high ethical standards. And then Jaime and I are both attorneys as well, and some of you may become CPAs. And again, ethics, whether or not you're an attorney or a CPA, you still need to be highly ethical, especially in the tax department. We are filing tax returns and remitting billions of dollars. Within the groups that report up to me, it is in excess of $15 billion a year in taxes that go through, that are reported and remitted on an annual basis. So I have 70 plus staff working on those returns annually, plus we have an intern that helps. And the intern is filing tax returns and requesting payments and submitting payments monthly. So if you mess up, tell us. Our analysts, we occasionally mess up. We're occasionally a day late on getting something done or getting something remitted. Just tell us, don't try to cover it up, because if we can be proactive and reach out to the state and say, sorry, we were a day late, what can we do to not have penalties assessed? That would go much better than finding out a month later when a penalty shows up and the intern didn't tell us, whoops, I made a mistake. So yeah, just be honest, explain it. Sometimes there's not an excuse, just come in and tell us.
Yeah, just know that you have your own personal brand. And you can do wonderful things with your brand, but you can tarnish it all like that if dishonesty comes into play, or if we feel there's a lack of integrity. If we ever feel like the trust has been broken, that's something that we just can't get past. We can get past just about everything else, and we can coach up just about everything else. But when there's dishonesty in the workplace, or attempts to conceal, or anything along those lines, and that's not something we can't tolerate it, because, again, it goes back to one of the earlier points. A team, nothing's bigger than the team. And when somebody comes in and they're dishonest, or they put their personal interest ahead of the team's, that's when it's time for us to say, hey, we're probably not the best fit for each other. I can remember when I was a young attorney, scared to death to go into my boss's office to say what I'm about to say. But I garnered enough courage to go do it. And I said, hey, boss, I think I screwed up. And here's what I did, and here's the potential implications. And I can remember my boss saying, well, tell me what you did. And, thankfully, he was a lot smarter than I was and says, "You really didn't screw up, but thanks for coming in and telling me." And then if you fast forward 20 years, just last week, one of my team members came into my office and says, "Jaime, I think I screwed up." And I can remember, I went back 20 years just like that, and it was a proud moment because I knew I could trust this person in my office. And I told this person, I said, "You didn't screw up. Whatever it is, we'll take care of it." You just don't know what kind of reassurance, transparency and honesty will get you in the business world.
Your professional reputation is built over your entire life and can be lost in an instant. Go ahead.
No, I'm just going to say I'm in marketing, we have no ethics. But you heard
Not
it.
true.
You heard it from the group. It really comes down to honesty. Never surprise the people you're working with. You never want to surprise them. That's what Ann said. That's huge. And you're an intern. Remember, you are an intern. We're not going to give you a task that we won't expect you to make a mistake, working on. So there is an expectation. You're in workforce development. We're trying to develop a great workforce for our teams. And there is an expectation that you are going to make mistakes. So again, just be honest about it. Get into whoever you're working with as soon as you can and just say, "I messed up." And you'll be surprised that, no one's going to hit you with a ruler on the knuckles or anything like that. They're just going to talk you through it and explain what you did wrong and opportunities to coach up. That's perfect.
Yeah, one of my senior managers just a couple of weeks ago had to reassure some of our new analysts. What we do, filing taxes, is not life or death. Is not a life or death decision. So if something happens that doesn't go right that day, just come and tell us. No one's going to die because of it. You're not going to die. So just, it's not worth getting that worried and stressed out about and can't sleep or can't come and talk to us.
And don't try to blame someone else. I've seen that a lot. Not just saying I made this mistake and apologize if you've made an error. That goes a long way too. Say, I really screwed this up. I'm really sorry. And it goes over so much better, and you really have faith in that person versus them saying, "Well, so-and-so didn't tell me this, and then, hey, I gave it to him, and he didn't notice I made this error, so that's his fault." And there's a lot of people that build these elaborate blame trees, I guess, out of their workload. And that is just, to me, I don't even want to work with someone like that. I would rather, now, if truly there are other circumstances involved, sure, we want to know about that. But the person who comes in and says that they made an error or didn't finish something on time or is just very honest is going to win out every time.
Great stuff. I really appreciate that.
Unless you're in pharmacy, someone really could die.
Correct. That's
So
what
you
I
don't
said.
want-
That's
Yeah,
what I
yeah,
said.
yeah.
in
Or medicine.
Tax Academy.
Yeah.
You wanna be pretty
We have
quick
any
on that.
pharmacy or
Yeah.
PA
Good point.
students.
Good point. Thank you. All right. So we've got about 10 minutes left in our hour together. What questions do you have? We've got a couple microphones here. So if you've got a question, you have access to some incredible resources in this area. Please take advantage of this. Raise your hand.
Okay, I'm going to say something. When you are at an interview, make sure you have 2 to 3, 4 questions ready to go, because I always allow 5 minutes at the end of my interviews and ask them for questions for me about the company, about Marathon, about Finley, about tax, anything. And if you have no questions, then I don't think you're that interested in the position and you're further down on the thing. So it could be back to doing the research on the company, knowing our values, asking something about how you view ethics, how you view corporate citizenship, anything, as long as you are asking something related to it. And don't tell me you want the job because of the money or the benefits. We know that you want the job because you're going to get paid and you're going to have benefits, but we've had interviewees that say, well, I really like Marathon's benefits, that's why I'm interested in this position. No, it's because of Marathon and the company and the position, and it works with what you want your future goals, not because of the benefits that you get with it.
All right. Go ahead.
So as a marketing student, I'm actively seeking for internship opportunities, stuff like that. So I worry a lot about my resume. So what is the first thing, or what is like the biggest thing that sticks out to you guys that would set a student like myself apart from the competition?
So from a marketing standpoint, I'll tell you, having facilitated this with other companies as well, of course, we're going to look at other work experience and other, marketing internships that you may have had. If you're early, in your development in terms of co-ops and internships, there's an expectation that hopefully you've got some type of leadership role within an organization at the university. So whether it's a fraternity or a marketing association or AMA, whatever it may be, those things always stick out. To get through the door, I mean, you're going to have to show, some good coursework as well. But quite often when you come to an interview and you talk about an opportunity, a situation, task, that you then had a systematic approach on how you solved it and what the outcome was. It's that old acronym STAR. What's the situation or task? What was your action and what was the result? If you remember that STAR in your mind, then you're the superstar, right? That's how I was taught. But it does work, and it really is a good way to, to stand out. So.
Yeah, and for me in communications, I love when applicants have, a little website where they have their work samples or samples of their writing is there on pieces that they completed. So they have their portfolio on the site. They may have the, kind of coursework they've done. They may have extracurriculars and things on that site. And I really appreciate the work samples being right there for me, because sometimes people come in for an interview and you say, do you have a portfolio of writing that you can show us? And they're like, oh, I'll get you that, and you're like, oh, you came in for a writing job and you didn't bring any samples of your work, so it doesn't go over well. So I do like to see samples, and then I always ask, what was the editing process on this? So who edited your work to get it to this point, or is this your work to this point? And some people say, no, this is completely my work, and that might be true, but in most organizations, whether it be in the media or in marketing or at a company, there's someone else who's had a hand in reviewing your work and raising it up a level. So I like people who are honest about that too.
Yeah, I would add just eliminate all words that aren't selling you. I mean, sometimes with resumes they're quite voluminous and it's more narrative than anything else. Be proud of your accomplishments. Put them out there. Put your GPA out there. If you have any leadership roles here on campus or out in the community, put that out there. Put any prior experience. But I'm big on crisp. I'm big on being to the point. And we'll know that, all right, hey, this person actually has some good prior experience, or we'll know, hey, this is going to be the first job or first big job that this person's going to have. That's okay. That's okay too. This is the time in your life where, hey, that's good. So don't try to hide that. Don't try to cover that up, and just come out and tell us who you are in the resume.
Another question.
So unsurprisingly, students also come up with nicknames too. So I want to know how you guys feel about tattoos.
Tattoos?
Tattoos.
Mr. Bowtie.
So I have tattoos. I love ink. More the better. So I don't have any issues with that at my company. I think most advertising firms wouldn't have an issue with that. I know that some others probably do have an issue with that. But for me, as long as it's maybe not crawling up your neck or something like that. But I'm okay with piercings. I'm okay with everything. I mean, we're a design house, a very creative agency. No, I have no issues with that. But I know my wife's company, which is in retail, and she hires marketers, she would not go for that. That would be a no-no in their business.
Yeah, I think moderation's good. I mean, I've got an earring. I've got a couple tattoos. It's not. I think tattoos have evolved. I think they, in a way that's positive. I think more and more people they have their body art is. It's descriptive of who they are. It's meaningful to them. It's very positive. There's no mark against that. But again, moderation. As you said, you have stuff crawling all over you. What do you want your brand to be?
We just brought in a third-party videography group, and I mean, they just look like they got dug out of I mean, right out of the gutter. And they, and not that, I mean, this is something to remember, they just smelled like absolute ashtrays. And it was, and that, you gotta be careful of that. You don't want to smell like an ashtray in the interview. And so, so vape, everyone. And, but their
Not
work
recommended.
was phenomenal. Their
Yeah.
website was fantastic.
That's what really
Their
matters.
sample of work was wonderful, and their professionalism in the meeting was great. So, you know, I had to pull back and not judge the book right away. And so it was, so, you know, just the website thing is key, especially on creative side.
Yep.
And that made me think of something. We had another interview person, they chewed blue gum the whole entire time. Do not come with gum in your mouth to an interview, and if it is, do not have some bright colored gum that you were chewing the whole entire time, because that was the comment through all the feedback, is he was chewing blue gum. And
It's Gum Guy. He became
Gum Guy.
Yes, yeah.
Wrigley.
That is not how you want to yeah.
Wrigley.
All right. Over here.
Bubble yum.
As we're talking a lot about like culture in the workplace, what are some good ways for interns to like learn to fit into the culture of whatever workplace we enter?
Buy donuts for the team. That's always key. Come in with donuts. No, just get to know the people you're working with. Get to know their communication style. Figure out we call it the love language at work. Different people like different things. I like when someone asks, you know, my day's almost over. Is there anything I can do before I leave, you know, to help you out? And other associates, they hate paperwork, or they hate filing, or they hate you know, running copies and putting binders together. So just figuring out that love language of your associates is pretty important, at least in our culture. So, and again, getting to know the people you work with. Try to go to lunch with them if you can. Have a cup of coffee in the morning, you know, little water cooler stuff. It never really hurts from a cultural standpoint, getting to know someone. Don't spend an hour at the water cooler.
Yeah. I agree with that, because it's surprising how many people don't just try to get time on your calendar. So one of our leaders at Cooper was saying, out of all of the interns that she had, only one put some time on this person's calendar and just wanted to get to know her, and just had a half an hour meeting where, how'd your career get started? And she was so happy to see that. And I think all of us would say, sure, if someone said, do you want to have coffee with me or lunch or whatever. And at Cooper, we have tons of volunteer opportunities, especially for younger people. We have a group called Fuel, and it's a kind of an affinity group for younger, early career people. So they get together and they do all kinds of things outside of work. You can always join that. We have Tread Wisely, which is our tire safety program. We always have we have 300 volunteers across Cooper that are in that program. So you could join those kinds of things. Those opportunities are out there.
Yeah, and I mean, you joked about it, but truly bringing in food is a good way to get in. We love our treats and tax department marathon. So about once a week, someone is bringing in something, whether it's homemade or from Dietz's or somewhere. But be observant. Further to Ann's point, be observant. If you see that there's always a group of your coworkers that are going to lunch, ask to join them for lunch, because at one point there was probably only 3 of them, and then it's grown to 5, and now you'd be number 6. That just gets you in, and you get to learn new things and be part of. We see you trying to integrate and not just be by yourself at all times.
We're out of time, but do we have one more question? Sure. One more good question.
Okay, one more good question.
No pressure.
So I mean, we need a healthy balance. So we have we believe in a strong intern co-op program, but it's also important to bring, from a diversity standpoint, you bring folks in mid-career, so you get different, whether it's from a different company, different industry, you're getting the benefit of their experiences. There's going to be diversity of thought. Sometimes, not sometimes, every time in an organization, if everyone has the same story, the same background, the same, they came up the exact same way, you're going to have some blind spots there, right? So it's important to mix it up with folks that are coming from other places and have years of experience under their belt already. We find, I can tell you, I can speak for Marathon, we find that that's the model that works for us.
What I love best about that question is that I started my career as a music teacher. I was a band director for 8 years and realized two things at the end of that 8 years. I love music and I love education. I don't love them together. I changed careers in my late 20s, and then I changed careers again in my late 30s to get into higher education. So, great question. Sometimes we get in the mindset like, I gotta get on this path, and this is the only path, and I gotta be on this for the rest of my life, and I have to do it right now. You get started on that path, and your path may change and vary over time. So don't hold yourself to one thing today for the rest of your life. All right, so I've got one thought to leave you with from Christy Kisserberth. Here's the last fun fact. A successful intern is someone who does such a great job that the employer won't want to let them go when the internship is over. And I can give several examples of making room in the budget to keep a great intern. So you think it's just a temporary thing, you think you're there for a moment, but it could be the start of your career. So keep that in mind. And please join me in thanking our panel for this evening. Thank you so much.